Hello fashion lovers, welcome back to Qavah Signature YouTube channel. Today I'll be giving us a detailed explanation on how to cut a normal bodice with double pointed darts or fish darts, or you can also call it diamond dart. Alright, let's get into it. Vertical measurements we are using in drafting today's bodice pattern are the bust point, which is 10 inches, the waist point, which is 16 inches, and the length of the bodice itself, which is 23 inches. Vertical measurements are the measurements you take from your shoulder to the down part of your body. They are measurements like shoulder to your bust point, shoulder to your waist point, shoulder to your hip point, and like that. Alright. Horizontal measurements we are using in drafting today's pattern are bust 36 inches, shoulder 15 inches, waist 32 inches, hip 42 inches. Horizontal measurements are the measurements to take round our body, except for the shoulder measurement, which is taken from one end of our back bone to the other end of the backbone. Alright, the next thing we are going to do is to draw our starting line. Our starting line, some call it borderline. I call it starting line. This is where every measurement is going to start from. Alright. Alright, the next thing we are going to do now is to take our vertical measurements, all our vertical measurements, starting with the bust point, which is 10 inches. Alright, which is 10 inches. Then we'll take the waist point, which is 16 inches. 16 inches. Alright. Please pay close attention to the way I'm doing it and taking the measurement so that we'll understand. Then we'll take the length of our bodies, which is 23 inches. Alright, I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side before connecting the line together, as I don't want any mistake. I want the line to be straight. Alright. So I'm repeating the same thing, taking my bust point measurement, waist point measurement, and the measurement of the bodies. Alright, now I'm going to connect the lines together. Alright, connect the lines together like this. Connecting the line together. Alright, now the next thing I'm going to do is to label my line. That first line is the bust line, followed by the waist line, then the hip line. Alright, the next thing now is to take our horizontal measurements. All our horizontal measurements will be divided by 4, except for our shoulder, that will divide by 2. Alright, shoulder divided by 2, which is 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. You see, I mark 7.5. Then at that point, I'll come down by 1 inches. The 1 inches is for slanting of our shoulder, as human being's shoulder is not straight. Alright, that 1 inches is important for slanting. Alright, now the next thing we're going to do now is to take our armhole measurement. Alright, and the formula for calculating our armhole is our bust measurement divided by 6 plus 1.5, and our bust is 36, which is 36 divided by 6 plus 1.5, it gives us 7.5. So our armhole measurement, that's our armhole measurement, the length is 7.5 inches. So we measure the 7.5 inches from the 1 inches that we measure earlier, not from the borderline. You start your measurement is from that 1 inches. I measured it from that 1 inches. Please note from the borderline, note from the 1 inches, measure 7.5 from there. Alright. Please take note of that. It's from the 1 inches, not from the borderline. From the 1 inches. Alright. Now I draw it. Please pay attention. Alright. Okay. I draw the line like so. And that line that connects to our armhole line is going to serve as our chest line. That's serving as our chest line. So we now have the chest line, the bust line, the waist line, the hip line, and the starting line. Alright, the next thing we are going to do is to draw out the shape of our armhole. Alright, so what we are going to do is to find the center of the armhole. Remember, we use 7.5 for the length of our armhole. We divide the 7.5 by 2, and it gives us 3 3/4. 3 3/4. We'll take 3 3/4 on the line of the armhole that we took earlier. Alright, then from there, from that 3 3/4, we'll come in towards the center front to come in by half an inch, and we drew our armhole out. Sorry for blocking your view. Alright, now we've drawn out our armhole. Alright, the next thing is to take our other horizontal measurements, the bust measurements. The bust measurement we are using is 36. So 36 divided by 4. 36 divided by 4 is 9 plus 1.5 for sewing allowance will give us 10.5. That's 10.5. The sewing allowance depends on the individual, the type of sewing you want to do, and all of that. Alright, but the sewing allowance we are using for this pattern is 1.5. Alright, moving forward, the waist. On the waistline, we'll take our round waist measurement, which is 32. We divide it by 4 rather. It gives us 8 plus 1.5 plus another 1 inches. The 1 inch serves as the dart allowance. It's 10.5, 10.5. Alright. Okay, now we'll take our hip measurement. Our hip is 42. We divide it by 4 also, which is 10.5 plus 1.5, which is 12 inches. So mark it. Alright. The next thing we're going to do is to connect the lines together. Our points, we'll connect them together. Alright. Okay, before then, we are going to do we are going to take the same measurements we took on the bust line. We'll take it on the chest line. Then we'll connect the lines together. We join all the dots together. Alright. Note that when taking my measurement on the bust, I added sewing allowance. On the waistline, I added sewing allowance and that allowance, which is 1 inches. Then on the hip line, I added the sewing allowance as well. Just the sewing allowance. On the bust line, sewing allowance. On the hip line, sewing allowance. On the waistline, we took the waist plus the sewing allowance and the that allowance. All right. All right, so go ahead and draft our neckline. The neckline we're working with for this bodice is round neck of 4 inches depth and 4 inches width. All right, we'll go ahead and mark our 4 inches width from the center of the pattern paper towards the shoulder on the borderline. All right, then we'll mark the depth of the neckline from the borderline towards the down part of the pattern paper. Please, towards the down part of the pattern paper. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is to slant our shoulder. Remember the 1 inches we came down with the other time? Yeah, when we draw the shoulder and wanted to draw the armhole to get our armhole length, alright? You connect from that 1 inches to your to your neck. Yes, connect from that 1 inches to the neckline. Alright. Another thing you're going to do is to come up from that line that you just drew. You come up by half an inch and connect it again to the line, just as I did. Please pay attention to it. You come up by half an inch from that line, from that 1 inches line that you used to slant. You come up by half an inch again, then you slant it again. You connect a line from that armhole line again to the neckline. This allowance is meant for is seams allowance. That is the allowance we use in joining the front part of the dress to the back part of the dress on the shoulder. All right, the next thing we'll do now is to draft out our darts, our double pointed darts. All right. Okay, so to draft our dart, to get our nipple to nipple measurement, that's if we're unable to take the measurement on the customer body. So the standard formula for calculating it is our bust divided by 8 minus 1. So and our bust is 36. So 36 divided by 8 minus 1 will give us 3.5. So we approximate it to 4. And you can also use 3.5, but we approximate as to 4. All right. Okay. So the next thing we are going to do now is to start measuring our 4 inches. You start measuring your 4 inches from the center front, like from the center of the pattern paper. Yeah, you've measured 4 inches on the hip line, and I'll measure 4 inches also on the waistline. Do the same thing on the bust line. Please, you stop the measurement on the bust line, or you start the measurement from the bust line, not on the chest line. Do not extend the measurement to the chest line, the bust line, the waistline, and the hip line. All right, then we'll connect it together. We'll connect the dot together like so. All right, so the next thing we're going to do now is that on the bust line, you come down by 1 inches on the bust line. Yes, on the bust line, from the bust line rather, you come down by 1 inches, and from the hip line you come up by 2 inches. You come up by 2 inches because we don't want our dart to be shooting out. We want it to lay flat very well. All right, now on the waistline you go in by half of an inch, 0.5, and you also come out by half of an inch, 0.5. All right, then watch closely as I connect it. We then connect it together. You connect the lines together. You connect the dot together as I am doing. Please watch closely so you understand what I am doing. All right, connect it like this, and voila, that's it. We now have our double pointed dart, or fish dart, or diamond dart. All right, so, and this is, we are done with our basic bodice pattern. Yeah, this is our basic body pattern. It works for anyone. All right, with a double pointed dart. We have different type of darts. We have princess dart. We have single pointed dart. Yes, we have a lot of darts, but for this is double pointed dart. All right, now we'll go ahead and draft our back pattern. So before then, we are going to cut this out. So we are going to cut the front pattern out. Please watch closely as I cut it. Watch closely. Alright, the first thing you are going to do to draft out your back pattern is to measure the inches you'll be using for your zipper allowance, like your zip allowance. So for this bodice that we are drafting, we'll be using 1.5 inches. Alright, and also lest I forget, you should not forget to draw your border line. Yeah, your starting line. You also draw it out on your back pattern paper that we are using. Then you go ahead and measure out the allowance you want to use for your zipper. So for this tutorial, we'll be using 1.5 inches. All right, then you measure it down and connect the dot together. All right, then you connect the dot together like so. Connect it together. All right, connect it together. Okay, all right. Then as a zipper allowance. All right. All right. So the next thing we are going to do now is to take our vertical measurements, just as we did for the front pattern, our bust point measurement, our waist point measurement, then the length of the bodice that we are using, which is 23 inches. All right. Then we'll, we draw it straight line like this. All right. We'll draw it across the paper. Okay. All right. Right. I'm trying to connect it. Connect the zipper to it. All right. Okay. So moving forward, we'll go ahead and take our horizontal measurement to start with our back. Just like we did for the front pattern, we are going to repeat the same thing for the back pattern. All right. Now we are going to draft our armhole out. We are going to draw out our armhole. This is another thing that is different. Okay, we'll get the center of our hammer just as we did for the front pattern. But remember, for the front pattern, we went in towards the center by half an inch before we draw out our hammer. So for this back pattern, we won't do that. We won't be going in by half of an inch. We'll only get the center of the hammer, then we'll cuff it like this, just as I have done. All right. Right. So that hammer line is going to stand as a chest line. All right. So we'll label now. That's our chest line. Then we have our bust line. We have our waist line. We also have our hip line. All right. Okay. Please pay close attention to it so you will understand. All right. So the next thing we are going to do now is to take our other horizontal measurements. So we'll repeat the same thing we did for the front pattern. We'll repeat it on the back pattern. But please take note, we'll be taking all our horizontal measurements. We'll start from the zipper line. Please, from that line that we draw for the zipper, we'll start from that line, not from the edge of the pattern paper. Remember that edge of the pattern paper where we labeled zipper is a zip. That's where we are going to put the zip. That's a zip allowance. All right. So your measurement is not to start from there. Our measurement will start from that zipper line. All right. So we'll connect the dots together just as we did for the front pattern. We'll connect everything. We'll connect it together. All right. We'll connect everything together. Pattern. All right. Now we want to take our neck. We want to draw out our neckline. So we are also the neckline for the back is also round neck, but we won't be using the same neck depth, but we are using the same neck width. So the neck depth for the back pattern is 4 by 2 inches. All right. So you can also do 4 by 4. You can do the same thing you did for the back, for the neck, for the front to the back for the neckline. All right. So we slant our shoulder just as we did for the front pattern. We slant the shoulder with that 1 inches. With the 1 inches, then we also come up by half of an inch and slant it again and leave the same allowance. The allowance we use to join the back to the front pattern. All right, so let's go ahead now and take our dart measurement. Okay, so we'll take our dart measurement from the zipper line. Okay, please pay close attention so you understand. All right, you can see that I'm taking the dart measurement. I took the dart measurement rather on the chest line, bust line, waistline, and the hip line, which makes it different from the front pattern. Remember when we took the darts for the front pattern, we measured the darts only on the bust line, on the waistline, and on the hip line, not on the chest line. All right. Now, for the back pattern, we are taking the measurement. Also, we are extending it to the chest line, making the back pattern different from the front pattern. All right, then we'll connect the dots together. Okay, so we'll repeat the same thing we did for the front pattern on the darts for the back pattern as well. We'll come up by 2 inches at the hip line, from the hip line rather. Then from the chest line, come down by half of an inch. That's 0.5 inch from the chest line. And we'll repeat the same thing we did on the waistline for the front pattern. We'll repeat it on the waistline for the back pattern. So we go in by half of an inch and we'll come out by half of an inch. All right. Then we'll now connect the dots together. Please watch it. Look at it and understand very well. Look at the way I'm doing it. You connect it together like that. All right. All right. Right. The final thing we're going to do now before we cut out is to remove our zip bulge. All right, what we are going to do now is at the waistline, we'll go in by half of an inch, 0.5, yeah. All right, then we'll come out by three quarter inches, Yeah, that's 3/4. We'll come out by 3/4 inches. All right. Okay. Right. The next thing we're going to do now is to connect the line together. The half of an inch, from that half of an inch that we went in with, we'll connect it to the down part of the hip. To the down part of the hip line. You can see as I connected it. Then you also connect it to the neckline, to the neck depth. Yes, of our neckline. You connect it to the neck depth of our neckline. Please watch closely so you will understand what I am doing. All right. Okay. So you connect it just like this. When you're done connecting that one, the 3/4 of an inch that we came out with, like at that zipper point, zipper allowance, all right, we'll also connect that one. You connect that one to the other edge of the to the other edge on the hip line, the edge that is connected to the zipper. All right, you connect it like that. Sorry, I do not know that the camera was not capturing that side, but you connect it to the down part. Then you connect it again to the neck depth of our neckline on the zipper. All right, you connect it like that. All right, before we cut it out, the next thing we're going to do is to return the half inches we took from the waist measurement. Remember the half inches, we took that half inches for the zipper, that half inches, we have to return it back. So our waist does not come out shorter than what we want. So we'll return the half inches back, just as I have done. Then we'll connect it to the bust line, then connect it back to the hip line. All right. All right. Okay, so we'll now go ahead and cut it out now. All right. Alright, we are done cutting it out now. So I label this front, the front pattern, I label it front. I also label the back, bodice pattern, label it back. Alright. Okay, before we go, let's remove the zip bulge. Let's further remove the zip bulge. We've done the first step. We can further remove it, as I said earlier. If you don't want to, you can leave it, but it's good you try to remove the zip bulge, all the zip bulge in every way. All right, so you at the waistline, you go up by half an inch and you come down by half an inch, just as I have done. Then you connect the line just like this to the waistline by the side, from the center back. Yes, from the center back, and voila, we've removed, we further, because we've removed the zip bulge first initially. This a further removal of zip bulge. All right, so we further remove zip bulge. All right, okay, yeah, then we'll staple it together. Alright, fashion lovers, thank you for watching. We've come to the end of today's tutorial. Please don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notification bell so you don't miss out on our sewing tutorial, style inspiration, sewing hack, and all of that. Don't forget to like this video and also drop your comments. Thank you for watching. See you next time.